sometimes the math just ain't mathing. And I know, my brothers and sisters, you and I would always want to skip through lilies and sip iced tea and make sure that things are going smooth in our lives. But grandmama used to say the arithmetic ain't really working right now. Let me help you and tell you that in grade school, before we had all of this academia, all of this accredited and higher learning in the mathematical arena, there was something that grandmama taught us at the house that you and I should be well aware of. It's called arithmetic. And in arithmetic, y'all, please say with me, there are 4 branches of study that you and I should be aware of if we are going to be disciples of Jesus Christ. The first term, my brothers and sisters, is called addition. Y'all know what adding is, don't you? Yeah, adding is a process of taking one thing and adding something else to it to make sure that that original value you had, therefore, does not decrease, but it increases. Okay, come here. Let me see if y'all with me right here. We add up our paycheck before we even get the payday. We start adding up what we gonna spend, where we gonna spend it, how much we gonna spend. We start adding that joker up before that direct deposit even hits your account. All right, but then, my brothers and sisters, not only do we have addition, I'm on the express train, but then we have something called subtraction. Yeah, that's where a lot of black folks start cussing in church, because subtraction is the skill in which we divide and take from, and it lowers the status and the amount of the original thing we authentically had. In other words, if you have 4 apples and I take 2 of your apples, you're left with only 2 apples for you to enjoy. And can I suggest and submit unto all of you, my brothers and sisters, that sometimes subtraction does not always bring joy to your heart. Subtraction does not always make you shout with the glad, but sometimes subtraction brings pain and misery to your heart, because most of the time we are taking away from something and we are left with a remainder. But here's the part where you and I want to get glad about, and that's called multiplication. Oh, y'all ought to come to the classroom just for a little minute. See, multiplication is something similar to addition, because multiplication is taking the same power and timesing it to the same power and coming out with the same or higher result. But here's the part where most of us fold our Bible, cross our arms, and take a nap. It's called division. Y'all look a little lost in the wilderness. Let me see if I can find you. See, division, my brothers and sisters, is when God steps in and divides certain things out of our lives. And the things that he divides from our lives, we try to hold on to it. We wrap our arms around it. We build precious memories with it. When God has been trying to divide it and separate it from our lives to leave us with a better remainder of who you and I really are. And my brothers and sisters, I stopped by Mount Olivet to holler at somebody this morning and tell you that every once in a while, God won't always add and multiply. God will sometimes subtract and divide from your life to prove to you that he is your ultimate supply. Y'all looking at me funny. Let me try to keep seats in the back of the church. God knows how to take away from you to add to you, and God knows how to divide from your life to multiply to your life. Oh, shake somebody's hand and tell your neighbor all things are going to work for you. And that's really the antidote to this message this morning. Whether if life is adding or subtracting, if life is dividing or multiplying, you want to have the attitude of gratitude to know what Paul says, that all things work. Y'all looking at me like I'm Papa Smurf. It must be the blue suit. We know that all things work together for the good was still developing me. And he was making me to be a whole lot better. My brothers and sisters, I want to tell you that Taraji says that in my life as a black actress, my math ain't really mathing. And she wasn't just talking about everyday life, but Taraji was trying to confess, y'all, that the money ain't adding up to the work. Y'all missed the cue to shout. Let me try this side of the room. Taraji was really trying to suggest to us that what we are experiencing in our lives, the benefits and the prerequisites that come after it, really ain't adding up. And I need somebody to really testify to the short man and be honest and say, I had some hills I had to tunnel through, I had some mountains I had to climb, I had some valleys that I got lost in, but through it all I have come to the realization that God is going to make it up to me. Y'all miss your cue to shout. That's why I came to church with the glad glads this morning, because through it all God is going to make it up to me. Through everything I've gone through in my life, He's going to make it up to me. My brothers and sisters, can I tell you that this text in Matthew chapter number 10, this text, my brothers and sisters, can I suggest and submit unto you in your contemporary versions of your Bible, from verses 1 to verse number 5, you will hear the Matthean setup of what Jesus is trying to discuss. But if you look at verses number 5 all the way to the conclusion of the text, Jesus is doing all of the talking. Let's try that again. That's a Sunday school lesson. They taught us in Sunday school that when you open the Bible and look at the Bible, the words in red, Jesus was talking. Okay, and so in this text, the first 5 verses of this Matthew text, Matthew is setting the scene. He's setting the stage for Jesus to really grab our attention. And when Jesus grabs our attention, y'all, there are a few things that he says to us that we ought to grab a hold to. Because when you realize that math ain't really mathing in your life, there ought to be a few things you need to do to keep your cool. Okay, let's try this. See, the first thing you need to do, my brothers and sisters, for those that may be writing and taking notes, let me give you something to leave with. The first thing you need to do when the math ain't really mathing in your life, the first thing you need to do, is my recommendation, is hold your peace. Okay, let me try that one more time, because you and I, that may not be good news to make you shout, but it's in our text in verse number 12 and verse number 13. If you are going through life and life is lifing, I got that from one of my young people. When life is lifing, God will be guarding. I know that ain't good English, but they told me and it sounds pretty good to me. When life is lifing, Franco Harris, I have learned, instead of you fighting, instead of you getting mad, instead of you cussing and fussing, instead of you throwing a pity party and blaming everybody and even yourself, sometimes you need to chill, my sister, cool out, my brother, and learn how to hold your peace. When folks is getting on your nerves, when folks is scandalizing your name, when folks is spreading your business, boo, you better learn how to hold your peace. Fella, I know it's rough. Society is against us, bro. I know statistics is going at our odds, but bro, you need to learn how to hold your peace. I need somebody to holler at me up here, because I need a little help up here. You got to learn how to hold your peace, because when you put your hand in it, it sabotages the whole situation. When you put your flavor in it, you take the credit from God and God gives you the power. But you got to learn how to take your hands off of what you're in and turn it over to the Lord. All right, it's in verse 12 and 13. It's in the text. In verse 12 and verse number 13, let me give you the text. Verse number 12 and 13, Franco says this: when you come into a house and greet it, watch this, he says, if the house house is not worthy. These ain't my words, it's in Matthew. He says when you show up into any place, any setting, and the house is not worthy. The writer says this. He says you have the power to drop off some peace wherever you show up at. But then if you realize that your peace is not being accepted, you have the authority to pick your peace back up, knock the dust off your feet, and keep it moving. Y'all missed the cue to shout. Let me try it one more time. See, because most of us talk our way out of our own blessing when God is trying to tell you that, baby, I've anointed you to step into certain rooms. I put you in places that your character might not even be ready for. But I know who you are. I'm your Father. I'm your God. I designed you. I made you. I ordained you. I justified you. I sanctified you. And I'm going to set you up and put you in arenas, put you in places where favor put you at, baby. And don't get mad, don't get upset, because when you walk through an open door, everybody ain't gonna be happy. When God sets you up for a miracle, everybody ain't gonna pat you on the back. When God really shows up and makes a way out of no way, everybody ain't gonna be your cheerleader. So God says when you show up to moments like that, boo, don't argue, don't justify, don't argue, don't debate, don't even try to defend yourself, but hold your peace and let the Lord fight your battle. I want you to practice that real quick. When folks show up, look at this. When folks show up, you want to do this. Oh, y'all missed it. Let's try it one more time. Let's see if we can practice that before we get to the job on Monday. When folks are doing this, you want to learn how to do this. Because when folks learn that you are holding your peace, they really don't know how to respond to you, baby. When folks realize that you are shutting your mouth and let Jesus take the wheel, folks really don't know how to respond to that. But let's just try it one more time. When things show up, y'all, when calamity shows up, when problem shows up, when the storm shows up, let me see what y'all gonna do, man. Let me see. Hold your peace and let the Lord fight your battle. All right, let me get out of here.
He done killed the service.
Let me get out of here.
Drop the mic.
Let me get out of here, because watch this. He says when you walk into a house and the house is not worthy, it is not your job to get upset. It is not your job to get mad. But the text says you ought to be able to drop off some peace wherever you go. In other words, don't let your situation change you, but you change the situation. Don't let the storm wet you up, but you ought to let the storm see you stay dry in the midst of a hurricane. Don't let the tears you shed confess to folk that you don't know how you're going to make it out. But while you're crying and what you're going through, you ought to tell the enemy and tell the world, I may be crying right now, but these tears are not going to be painful forever, because God has a countermeasure in his favor. And the